Good morning and welcome to our live talk program. This is Lloyd over here, your host on Revive Reform Radio, doing our live talk program covering wisdom for living on this year, Friday morning, rise and shine and give God the glory. And this morning here, we're looking at Proverbs 27 and our topic, Proverbs 27 verse 7. And our topic is, if you are not hungry, you will start complaining. If you're not hungry, you'll start complaining. This is our process of meditation this Friday morning here as we look at our live talk program. So welcome again to our talk program, and hopefully a blessed night rest and you're ready to take on the challenges of today. Thanks for joining by. Let's pray. Our Father who art in heaven, I thank you again for the blessings of your word, the blessings, dear Lord, of the wisdom that you bestow upon us. I pray, dear Lord, that you may be with us and bless us as we look at these things for salvation and for our life. This is my prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. So again, looking at this process of meditation here from Proverbs 27, verse 7, and my topic is, if you are not hungry, you will start complaining. And I'm going to start by reading Proverbs 27, verse 7. It says, the full soul loatheth an honeycomb, but to the hungry soul every bitter thing is sweet. So the full soul, the person that is, their belly, so to speak, is full, they loathe or hate an honeycomb. But to the hungry soul, every bitter thing is sweet. Right? So you know the deal there. So I wanted to meditate upon this one verse here, because this one verse here have a lot to do with life. If you remember in John chapter 4, verse I'm giving the verse, but in John chapter 4, Christ talks about this clear idea here that, you know, you worship God in spirit and in truth. And normally I look at that word spirit as in your attitude, the spirit that you come to something with. And so the soul that is full, loathe the honeycomb. Now, in reality, that's how it works. When you're full, you don't want any more. You're stuffed. And that's it that you push away from a table. But when you get hungry again, you want something, anything. Just give me something to eat. And that's how it is in real life. So I'm not going to try to talk about it in the reality of hunger and full. I think it's self-explanatory. When you're hungry, you want food. When you're not hungry, you complain. And you can see this especially with children. Let them skip a meal, and all of a sudden, if you give them food, they'll eat the food because they're hungry. And some beans and rice is great when you're hungry, but when you're not hungry and you're snacking, you tend to be more picky. So you have more requirement for something probably sweet or stuff like that. So here, to a full soul, person that is full, their body is full, their stomach is full, they hate even a honeycomb. But when the person is hungry, everything bitter to them is sweet. Now, here's the interesting part about this, right? Have you ever had a honeycomb? Talking about I'm not going to get into the theoretical or the spiritual aspect of this yet, but the honeycomb, have you ever had it? So, if you ever had a honeycomb, they normally make the beeswax. They use the structure of it to use beeswax for various different things, in especially skincare, hair care, and so forth. So, it's very sticky and whatever, so you have to deal with it. It's not like just spooning out the honey after it's been pressed out of the comb. So one could complain about that. If you see, just right off the bat, you can have a reason why you complain. You're already full. I can't be bothered with the honeycomb. But if you're hungry and someone say, here's some honeycomb, I'll deal with the sticky part and the part that feels fun in your mouth. This other part there, the structure of it. So if you look at that, you can see how quickly, when somebody is not really hungry for something, which is now where I'm going for the rest of the time here, they will find complaints. But when a person is hungry, they'll deal with whatever. They'll put up and they'll deal with stuff that is difficult. But another person is full, be like, why are you making so much effort? Because I'm hungry. But they're full, they'll be like, meh. Yeah, they have an apathetic behavior. So when you're hungry, whatever that is that you should be hungry for, you want, you'll put up with things that another person will see as abusive or inconvenient or difficult, and they'll just start complaining as if they have 100 flies flying around their head, and they start finding a way to fly, and like, oh man. But when you're hungry, there could be 100 flies, and then you start thinking, man, I'm gonna eat these flies. And somebody like, you're crazy, and they're like, no, I'm not crazy, I'm hungry. So you get aggressive even after the flies. And so it's this idea here that difficulty will deter a person, or a little bit of difficulty will deter a person who's full. But a person who's hungry, a lot of obstacle will not stop them. When you're hungry, you'll go over whatever obstacle. But a person who is full, they'll be like, why? And it's obvious, why? Now, the deeper thought to me with this text, to explore, and this is to me, you always have to go to the depth, the bottom, is what happens when a person is actually hungry, but there's no motivation, and they stay hungry, and they're satisfied with hunger. What happens if a person is living in a leaking roof, in a thatch house, or a hut, or whatever type of, a tent, a yurt, whatever, and it's leaking, and they're miserable about the leaking. So they're not miserable. They're just like, I don't care. I'm just going to be here. And then there's another person now is living in that same condition, and they'll be like, I'm going to do whatever I can to get out. And you say, that person is hungry. But both are in a difficult situation, but one is hungry and one is not. And you're going to find in life, to me, the wisdom here is that in your dealings, whether it be in business or in service, or if you're selling goods or you're servicing people with different services, or you're dealing friendships, relationships, family, whatever you're dealing with, and you deal with human beings, you're going to find that this principle here in Proverbs 27 verse 7 is going to affect a lot of what you're doing. Because when a person is hungry, they'll deal with stuff, they'll go through difficulty to get whatever it is. So like for me, if I'm buying a product, I don't sometimes worry if the product will break, so to speak. I don't want a product to break. If it breaks, I don't want it to break often. I want a product to be reliable. But a bigger concern is always on my mind is customer service, because I know things break, things rust out, things burst, things fall apart, things just were configured but were not assembled properly. So it was designed properly, but it was not assembled properly. But customer service is always important, because when you need help, you need to get the help. So if you're hungry and look, I need this thing more than you need it. So imagine the person at customer service is helping me out to fix this problem. But this problem here is going to cost me, say, $1,000. But they're getting paid, say, $12 an hour. Who's in a tighter situation, me or them? Well, myself. So whatever they're doing to help me, I'm I'll put up, I'll wait, I'll stay on the line, I'll take a call back if the call drop. They don't have to call me, I'll call them, because it has a bigger value to me. I'm more hungry, and so for me the cost is immense in comparison to what they're getting paid for helping me for an hour or 30 minutes. For me, that thing, if it doesn't fix, it's gonna cost me $1,000. So I need that bag of money. They're just gonna get probably $6 for that half an hour of help. So when you look at life, it's like I'm always looking at it as I'll go through the difficulty based on how hungry I'm at. But if I'm not hungry, the difficulty becomes an over annoyance. It becomes like I'm not desperate enough to get this thing fixed. And that's what it is that so you could be, per se, which is always my fascinating thing, you could be in a mess, but you're just not hungry to fix that. You don't want it enough. So in your dealings, when you deal with others who are not hungry, you have to baby them. You have to beg them. You have to plead with them. And it is like pulling their teeth. But the only difference is, it should be that if a person is in pain, even though pulling teeth is very difficult, but if you've ever had toothache, pulling the teeth is like, oh man, I'm so glad. I'm like, oh, You can't tell the dentist thanks because your mouth is all numb and all that, and you're in pain, and you know it's going to be severe pain after it. But you're looking forward that a day or two after pain going to die down, and you're so glad, no more pain. So even pulling teeth, as though they normally say pulling teeth, and I know what I mean by that, but it's the behavior. The person act as if you're pulling their teeth, and their behavior to you is almost like you're causing them pain, and all you're trying to do is literally relieve the pain. So you're like in the dentist situation, and you understand when somebody's going to pull your teeth and yanking at your mandible or your upper part of your mouth, there's no happy medium there. But at the end of the day, when you look at that, you can see real quickly how when you're dealing with people and they're not hungry, they're gonna be like a child. It's sometimes you see dentists, they have to, our doctors, they have to come up with certain ploys to deal with certain kids because like, look, child, if I don't do this for you, you might die. And the child is like playing game, crying, being whiny, and that's a child. But something you deal with adults, and you're like, look, adult, if I don't do this for you, you might die. And the person is whining and complaining. It affects things in life. And so I've learned over the years, it's very difficult to deal with somebody that is full, whether they be literally full, or hypothetically. Like, say for instance, if I kind of back off, I don't even like sometimes to be feeding people who are not hungry when it comes on to like healthy food, because their attitude is like you're begging them. They're not, meh, and they have a kind of attitude towards it, and they loathe it, and so I don't even back. I don't do it, and I try to avoid doing it. I make people clearly be known. You come to my house, you're gonna be eating 100% plant-based diet. And that's it. You want to come still? Or you want to stay in a hotel? Because that's just the thing. Because it's just like, yeah, they're full. They have no need. It's not no value. But a person now, say who have a sickness, or they want to change their diet, and they want this. My worst meal is great. My great meal is over the top. Better than I like it. Because all of a sudden their attitude change how whatever is presented to them, and they see it as a blessing. But a person who don't want it, their attitude is you have to beg them, you have to baby them, you have to plead with them, you have to be like you're the dentist and you're pulling their teeth and you're doing them a favor, in a sense, are they doing you a favor to allow you to pull their teeth? And that's just where life is. And so when you go through life, this is one of the wisdom where you're gonna have to know it's better for various different aspects of your life when you deal with individuals to try to find customers, friendship relationships, family relationships, people who want to deal with you, want to be in a relationship with you. Then it doesn't become forced. As a matter of fact, that becomes the difference between, say, a sexual assault and a relationships. One wants it and one doesn't want it. And you can see that real quickly. One, you're forcing yourself upon the person. One, the person wants you, I guess, to force yourself upon them. So that's just the way you look at it. It depends. All of that is just that balance. And when that balance is there and a person have the appetite, they would eat basically a honeycomb. If you give them honeycomb and they're hungry, they'll be like, man, this is greater than even great. But if you give them some drab slice of bread, they'll be like happy for it also, because they're hungry. So the person doesn't have to have the appetite for something. Let me look at that again. So the person doesn't have the appetite for something, right? So if a person doesn't have the appetite for something, no matter how much you give it to them, no matter how much you make it nice. In other words, you could give them the nicest looking, decorated, tasting cake. If they don't have the appetite for it, it's like they don't want it. So when you don't want something enough in this life, or when somebody don't want something enough, you have to go try to talk or deal with somebody that want it. So when a person don't have an appetite, sometimes, there's certain things in life, and we'll talk about later on, that people just don't want enough. They have it, the opportunity is there for them, and they don't want it enough. And because they don't want it enough, they feel apathetic towards it. And there's somebody there who will happily take it. Imagine somebody's dumpster diving for food that people throw out, that restaurants throw out, that restaurants putting out. And somebody is like, I'm not going to eat that. And somebody like, man, I'll take it out of the dumpster. It does depend on the motivation. So when somebody's so hungry, they'll do what they have to do. While somebody else is like refusing the same food and saying that same food has no value. And that to me is what it is. Before I go to my next text, I wanted to say that I remember when I was young, when peas and beans were cooked in my food, especially if it was cooking rice, or incorporated in the meal or on the side, I would avoid to eat it. And I would avoid this like the plague, so to speak. I didn't like it, right? And especially when I see like a child eating beans, I would just, now, as an adult, I would sit and watch them and just be fascinated. Because I couldn't figure out what happened. I don't know if it was the skin of the beans, because it's a little bit harder. And I needed, processed food all day long. But I wouldn't eat it. So when I see a child eating it, I'm always happy. And this is important because, again, now I've come to really appreciate beans and appreciate it, but from a different point of view. Now I can eat it and I'm eat it fine. And I'll just cook it and eat it in almost most meals, or a lot of meals that I eat now, right? As I got older and I became eating plant-based, and then all of a sudden you realize one of your main sources of protein is going to be beans. So anyhow, so when you think about this, right? If you have time after I finish, or you've looked at this before, you look at the ORAC, the oxidative reactive capacity of food. Kind of mix it up there, but ORAC, O-R-A-C. And you look at the ORAC value of food. So you look at the value of food. Antioxidant value. So is oxidative reactive antioxidant value or something of food, but it's ORAC. You look at it, O-R-A-C capitals, and you look at the foods that have some of the highest or the highest values to deal with carcinogens and other oxidants. And you'll find that on that list, the antioxidants that are most powerful are actually beans. Apple is up there most naturally, and other foods. But when you look at the list, you'll find very fascinating, like dark red kidney beans, black beans, light red kidney beans, pinto beans. Those beans are very powerful when it comes on to dealing with oxidants. That means dealing with any type of chemical, any type of air pollutant, any type of stress that your physical body goes through. Like if you're exercising hard, the harder you exercise, the more oxygen flow through your body and cells die off. Lactic acid build up, recovering for exercise, tearing out of the muscle as you exercise and try to build. All of that becomes your need for having antioxidants in there to go against those oxidative reactions that are caused by oxygen and stress upon your body. So your body needs this, and what the oxidants do, they take the hit for you, or they accelerate repair within your body, or they feed you certain nutrients that will make your body produce the hormones and various different nutrients that you need to be able to build, repair, keep young, stay young, look healthy, remove your fine lines and wrinkles. So if you look at the list, without me looking at the list from my memory, and you look at the beans that are on there, and you see the list that you're reading, beans, and you eat your beans. And so when you're eating your beans, you're eating, a little bit of beans here, a little bit of beans there. you get some benefits, but the benefits you're getting is not overwhelming. So I started eating beans as I became on my own. Beyond 18. I'm not a child, and my parents not telling me to eat the beans. So now I eat it on my own. Then I start learning about health, and now all of a sudden now the beans now, and if you as I sit here right now, the beans are powerful in my mind. And why it is not just because of that list, because I've tested it for myself, and I could eat beans at the volume that somebody would say you should eat, say, raw. They say high raw, low amount of cook. But believe it or not, and you can test this for yourself. And as I say, when I'm talking, you always have to remember, I've been plant-based for many years. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do all that stuff. So apples for apples. But I can go and say for a week, 2 weeks, just hit high volumes of beans in my food. Black beans, red, dark red kidney beans, light red kidney beans, pinto beans, various different beans, lentils, all these things. And I can tell you my skin will start looking as if I'm juicing. I'm not joking. The quality of my skin improves so much. That is fascinating. Beans, now, again, this is something, as I say, I didn't even plan to talk about this morning. But it's I'm just thinking about this idea of a honeycomb to a person who's full means nothing. But when you're hungry, it means something. Now, this information probably wouldn't be important to me if you told me this when I was 20. But now, at my age, I can see the difference, because as my body's waning in power, so to speak, and I can practice something like this, I can see the gem. So when somebody says, yeah, the National Institute of Health tested, and they find that some of the most potent things to put nutrients in your body is that darkness, that pigment in that pinto bean, or those pigment, even the white pigment in the cannelli or whatever. There's literal nutrients there, and you're like, really? And you go and eat a quarter cup. Ain't gonna do nothing. I'm not saying not gonna do anything. You eat it every day. Long term, it's gonna do something. But you start heating it in high volumes, and you start to say, wait a minute, this is fascinating. This is the same thing that I did not like when I was young. But now, as I get older, and I'm hungry for antioxidants, and I've intelligently now understand what they do, all of a sudden now beans become fascinating to me. I remember I bought a whole bunch of black beans, and I cook a whole pot, freeze them, put them in Ziploc bag, freeze them, and then I would just use them at high dosage, and then I see the value, because all that color, they're nutrients, and that nutrients get eaten in the body, get put into all the cells, including the skin, and you find your skin will start glow. I'd be like, fascinating. This is absolutely fascinating. That's why they're so high on the list, and they populate the list at the top 10. Quite a few of them. So it's not just an apple a day. You juice that apple, you get some of the same results. You juice that carrot, you get some of the same results, but you can get the same results from your beans. So I know this is the thing when I do these talks sometimes, I go off on these tangents, because what it is that it's so vivid in my mind, and it's so important, but a person will be like, I don't see the value, or I don't get connect. I'm going to tell you, the way I connect with it is because when I was young, I wasn't hungry for that, and I didn't get the value, and I didn't grow up very healthy because of that. But now I look at the same thing that, I wasn't hungry for, but become a mindset change. Now all of a sudden, I think beans, something that, again, I'll stomach it, I'll eat it down. And for me, let me tell you, I remember when they would make me porridge. Porridge is not something you eat big in America, but British countries eat porridge. And if the porridge have lump, I'll hate it, because it make me gag. But if you can show me the health benefits of eating porridge, I'll get up and eat it once a day. And I can do it every day, mindlessly, so to speak, because my mind is hungry for whatever. So you tell me, hey, this thing here will keep you, churning out, getting energy, firing up yourself. I'll be like, okay, let's fire it up. So it's a mindset. So this is why I say attitude is so important, because when you have if a person have, as I say, a stinking attitude, everything that you could be try to be nice, you could try to say nice things to them, and they'll take offense. And it's not because of what you say, it's because the attitude stink. But if somebody else says something rude to them and they want to deal with that person, they'll put up. And you be nice and they don't want to deal with you, they don't put up even with what you say nice. And I've been in situations like that. You try your best, you beg the person, you plead with them, you be on your P's and your Q's, as they say. You tiptoe when you're around them, you try to always smile, you try to whatever, and they're still upset. And you realize they'll never be happy with you, because their problem is they have a dirty attitude towards you. And you learn that. And it's the same thing. Beans, I'll be like upset, I'm mad to sit in my plate. But now I could scarf it down and I could put it down. And then I get the result and I'm like, oh, I love beans. You soak the beans. People cook it so it give you less gas by doing cilantro, lemon, that type of thing. Whatever. Just do what you can and make it happen. And then you won't complain. Somebody said, but what if I have gas? I'm like, what if you look fabulous? Just answer that. What if you're in your 40s, your 50s, but you look fabulous? You're fabulous, but you fill with gas. Does it matter? So you see, but you can complain. There's always something you can complain about, something. And that's not my experience of beans. Because if you soak it properly and make it start to sprout, and then you cook it. I even will do it sprouted, like lentils. Lentil sprouts are nice. But you do those dark beans. Look right now, if you look at fava beans, because it has the what is called macuna purines. It has the active ingredients in macuna purines is a bean itself, and then you have the fava beans, which have the same messing it up here, but they have the same nutrients. Now that bean is used to treat Parkinson. So here all of a sudden you're looking at macuna purines, you're looking at fava bean, and you're looking at them, and somebody say, man, that some of those beans, their skin is so tough, the blah blah blah. And you say to somebody, hey, you need to eat this bean on a daily basis, not just as a supplement, but eat the bean. And they'll be like, yeah, but don't wait a minute, you're saying it helps what? It helps you with Parkinson. Well, somebody having Parkinson, that bean is their love child. That bean is they fall in love with that bean, because it has values way beyond you could think. And so this is why you understand how powerful these beans are and these nutrients are, but not in a little quantity now. We're not talking about, eating a few grains. We're talking about eating it wholesale. In Revelation chapter 3, verse 15 through 17, Revelation 3, verse 15 through 17, as I continue looking here at, if you are not hungry, you will start complaining. 15 says, I know thy works, that thou art, talking about Laodicea, I know thy works, that thou art neither cold nor hot. I would that thou wert cold or hot. So then, because thou art lukewarm, and neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth. Because thou sayest, I am rich, and increase with goods, and have need of nothing, and knowest that thou art wretched, miserable, poor, blind, and naked. So here are people who are doing well, probably financially, but here Lord says they don't want nothing. They can't be helped. They have to be spewed out because they're apathetic, because you're not hungry. It's when it's like it's I think it's 2 times in the Bible. I think Peter says it and David says this idea here that don't give me riches so I forget God, and don't give me poverty so I suffer. Something like that. It's like you want to be in the middle. But one thing I've come to realize is that sometimes with life, it's good to just always stay hungry. Now, somebody say, well, that means you can always be poor. Not necessary. The attitude. Because I think life, if for me at least, I'm hoping, probably if I live to see more old age, I will change my attitude and I just want to chill. But the idea for me, at least this point in my life, to just chill on a beach every day and just bum out, so to speak, At least that's how I view it. I view it as bumming out. Probably somebody said, well, the person is retired. Wouldn't seem exciting to me. Like the whole idea of being creative, building stuff, working on stuff, coming up with new ideas, is a constant interest. But as I say, probably if I live to get older, much older, I guess my attitude would change. But when I look at this, it's like you need to stay hungry. That's just to me life. Being hungry is a good thing. Not hungry in this physical sense, but hungry in the metaphorically or the spiritual sense. Because when you're hungry, right, you want more. You want more character development. When you're hungry, you want to be happier. You're not satisfied with where you're at. When you're hungry, you don't stay poor because you're always trying to work to get out of poverty. When you're hungry, you don't stay blind because you always want to see. You want to learn. You want to understand different people's point of view. You want to see the world from a different perspective. You want to understand things that you don't understand. You don't see books and knowledge and other opinions and perspective as your enemy. You see it as something to enlighten you. If you're hungry, so to speak, you won't stay naked because you want to be clothed. You say, I'm not satisfied with where I'm at. And all of this is, as I said, practical, but it's spiritual. But if you're not hungry, then you're going to start complaining. And you're just going to start being apathetic and miserable. But instead of being miserable, I say I'm going to do something about it. But when people get miserable, it's like, what are you complaining for? Oh, there's too much beans on my plate. But for me, I'm like, okay, some of that red kidney beans, dark purplish, reddish looking kidney beans, some of that light red kidney beans, some of that pinto beans. Those things are nutrients on your skin. Those things will make you glow. So all of a sudden, I'm hungry for glow. But if I was probably 20, this was to be just good information. I understand how important it is. But if I'm in my 40s and I'm watching people my age physically falling apart, dying of cancer, all this type of stuff, I'm like, give me that beans. Give me that black beans. I need it. See, it's my attitude change towards the same thing because now I'm hungry. So a person who is in a situation where they say, I'm good, but the Lord looking at them and say, you wretched man, how are you saying you're good? So when you're not hungry, it's hard for you to capitalize on opportunities you have in front of you. See, somebody who's not hungry will be sitting there and saying, man, I can't get ahead. And somebody like looking at them, walking past them and getting ahead of them, I'll be like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm getting ahead. I'm going to do it. And the person said, oh, but there's too much restriction and blockage. And the person is like, yeah, but man, you don't know where I'm coming from. Where I'm coming from, I don't have this opportunity. So I'm going to take this opportunity and I'm going to be killing it all day long. So you don't capitalize on what's in front of you because you ain't hungry. You'll be like, why? I already have. I'm already successful. That's a problem with sometimes even when you're born successful. You're not hungry. It can be a disadvantage to be born with a good set of genes. Your genetical makeup is you have a stronger constitution. So you look at the weights. You have a good constitution. Your body's healthy. You look at some weights. You look at some 50-pound and 25-pound weights. And your muscle already grow. Somebody look at the weights. They're lifting all day long and they can't build muscle. You go somewhere and say, I don't get sick or whatever. And normally a person who does that, they normally waste their constitution. They waste their physical strength. Because they're like, I'm good. I'm not hungry. But somebody who's hungry will work harder to preserve what they have and even develop it and become better. And I've seen this in life. Somebody without the natural endowments exceeds someone, all the time I see this, exceeds someone that is naturally gifted. You see it all the time. They just keep working at it and working at it. And the person who is naturally have good eye to hand or good eye to foot, I'm saying it bad. What do you call it? Communication the brain can configure and figure it out. and they get outplayed by somebody who doesn't, but just naturally just work on it, but they're not natural. Why? Because one is hungry, one is not. It's not sometimes because there's all these poor people and they can do stuff and whatever, and they try to make it out of the ghetto. It's often they can be they're just hungry. They're just tired. They're just scared. They're just tired of being shot at, to have people dying around them, and they're like, I'm gonna make it out of here. And then somebody who has it, you see them a few decades later, they're found themselves in the ghetto because they regress and they go backwards because they're not hungry. They're good. So capitalize on the opportunities you have in front of you. Get hungry for it. Figure out how to. There's some sauce. I don't know where the sauce, but go get the sauce. Go down to your local supermarket and ask them if they have the hunger sauce. And you go buy some and start put it on your food and start getting hungry. Hungry for success. Hungry for better in your life. Whatever that sauce is. Metaphorically speaking. That all, so you could have a situation in front of you, right? And somebody's looking at it and thinking, that's your opportunity. And you're looking at it, why? Because it's your opportunity. You have the right setup. It's like a set. This life is just like movies. If you ever watch a movie or read a book or a narrative or you read history, and you see how things are set up a certain way. There are certain sets. And opportunity come, but the person has to take the opportunity. If you read the Bible, you find these Bible stories where somebody's set up and they get the opportunity and they blow the opportunity. And they're off partying. And then somebody's come and say, that's mine. So why should you lose the opportunity that it's God's blessing upon you? That's your setup to have this success. This is all you all day long. You take it. You're in that situation. There's some people who are born with certain opportunities. And other people want it and they're trying to get it and they can't because they just weren't born with that set. The parent didn't have certain experience, so forth and so on. Parents probably own a store. They grew up in a store. They see how the store run. Yada, yada, yada. They went to school. They probably did some business courses. And everything is set up. And somebody say, you're up next. You should do a large chain of stores. And the person like, why me? Because you have the set. You're set up for it. You have the particular skill set and the experience and the opportunities and the family setup and everything. All of the pieces come together is telling you, man, this is your move. And the person like, nope, I need to go bum out to the beach. The person not hungry. So even something else, but a person who is hungry now, you give them it and it's bitter experience. They're going to try to do the same thing, but they didn't have all these things, these ducks line up in a row. They're going to have a hard time. It's going to be a bitter experience, but they're so hungry that they'll figure it out. And it's going to cause them blood, sweat, and tears, but they want it so much that they'll take it. And somebody else who's there is like, I'm good, man. I'm rich and increasing with goods. I have no need of anything. And to a certain degree, it's true. It's true. So somebody else, as you know, will fight for the scrap off the table. Somebody else, where somebody's living even poor, so to speak, lower class, income-wise lifestyle. And there's somebody else, somewhere else in the world, in America, somewhere else, who'll be like, man, I'll die for that opportunity. I'll fight to live just like how you're living. And the person will be like, but I'm over here complaining. My life is terrible. And the person will be like, yeah, I'll trade you my hut. And you see how that is. I'll give you my hut and I'll take your Section 8 housing. And that's just the reality. And a person will be like, I'll do everything to get to that level where I'm living in a 700 square feet property with stove and running water and, and that's it. It's a dollhouse. It's a mini house. And a person be like, oh no, but I'm in the mini house, I'm complaining. And the other person like, I take it all day long. I think I've told this story before, but I remember years back, I was dealing with a guy who used to be a print shop guy for me, and he lived in one of the more affluent towns in New Jersey. I think it was Bedminster. So if it wasn't there that Whitney Houston, when she was alive, lived in, it was a town near there. I think it was Bedminster she lived in. So he lived in a very affluent town, and he said he got in there when the market had crashed, the savings and loan. And he said he had some money and so forth. But he got in there in the 80s when the savings and loan had gone down. So he said, there's this guy who was, I think he was an Indian doctor. And he said, move, on the same street with him. And he was saying, he was asking him, how could you, like, as a foreigner, when you think it's risky for you to buy, like, in an area like this, it's a lot of money still. It was still a decent amount of money. But he was just talking about the whole idea of the uncertainty of the economy. And he said, the Indian guy says, look, I'm from India. It says there, you can't even guarantee from one day to the next for the liquidity of banks, that you could go to the bank today, money's in the bank, tomorrow you go and the bank crash, fail, and you lost your money and all your money's gone. So he said, when you're in an economy that can go, at least at that time, I don't know what it is like now in India, because they have a bill, they're developing. But at that time, he says, the system can, new government, new whatever, and you're broke, you're running out of town, you have to leave the country and all that type of stuff. So he says, whatever is going on here, even though as uncertain as it can be, it's worse in other places. So I'm happy for this opportunity. So he was just saying, sometimes life is perspective, because a lot of people are panicking, but here you have this guy, like, this is bad, but this is not anything compared to what I'm used to, where I'm coming from. And most actually, years later, decades later, when I met him, that place had blown up in value. And so if you look at, and I think that's the town Bedminster, if you look at it, you see the value of it. So if you look at that, you can see that somebody will like, this is not an opportunity. Another person will be like, no, give me that all day long, because this is a great opportunity. It depends on how hungry you are. And when you deal with people, you'll find the same thing, especially for me, deal with people in church. So you deal with people, it's like, do they really want it? And if they don't really want it, they give you such a headache, because they're really like, they're there, but they think they're doing you a favor. And I'm like, my salvation is just on the line as your salvation. My lifestyle and the way I live daily is on the line like yours. We know what you reap in this life, and for life eternity is character. Some people say, no, it's something else. I'm like, no, it's character. Character is everything. A lot of people are as miserable as their character make them be miserable. Character is so important. A lot of this, what we're talking about here, is just character, it's your attitude. When you're hungry, you're not as miserable, because you learn to be thankful for the opportunities and situations you have, even if they come a little bit bitter or they come bitter, because you're thankful. At least if you're eating and it's bitter, you have to just be thankful that at least, what happened? I'm alive to taste bitter. There's some people that they don't have the opportunity to taste bitter because they've been murdered or something like that. So praise the Lord, I can taste bitter and have some food to eat. So someone else will fight for the scraps that you have. So it's important for you to take care of the scraps. I always love this principle that the gleaning of the field was for the poor. So imagine the gleaning is after you reap and there's some stuff left over. It's nothing. And the poor like, yeah, that's something. We'll take it. It reminds you that you're so blessed, that somebody's living off the scraps. You give a little bit of money to charity. You give a little bit of money to the poor. You give a little bit of money to a family that is in need. And you remember that you're only giving a little bit of your income. And that reminds you that a little of your income you're giving, somebody's living off that. Can you imagine that? And you have the rest for yourself. You become thankful. Helping out somebody with a little remind you that the much you have is something to be thankful for. Your scrap, somebody's living off the scrap. And that's important to note. What is scrap to you? It's like, it don't hurt you. You help somebody, you give somebody some money, and it's $100, and you have thousands. What is that? It's nothing. What is that for you to feel bad for somebody getting a little scrap? So somebody else will fight for your scrap. Just remember that. So be happy for the rest you have, even if it's not a lot, but it's something. So, but when you're a complainer, you complain for the rest. You're just complaining for the rest, and you're not happy. So the bitter, at least you have some food. You think about it. I've met people and they say, Lloyd, I can't accept in a relationship a piece of woman or a piece of man. In other words, it's not their soulmate or it's not their daydream of a wife or a husband. And I said, you don't want it. You're just not hungry enough for a relationship. Because when you're hungry for it, you take a piece of man or a piece of woman, if that's how you view it. And then you're not going to view it as a piece of man or a piece of woman. You're going to view it as a whole man or a whole woman. But when people have unrealistic values and views, they'll be like, oh no, I don't want that. But they'll stay out there and keep fornicating and stuff like that. If that's what they're doing, if they're not living celibate. And you don't want it enough. But if you want it and you're hungry and you're thirsty for that relationship, you'll be like, you know what, I'll deal with what I have to deal with. It is not the best. It's not the whole what I daydream. It's not my daydream that I get from one of those crazy books. But at least I get something. But it depends. Our social relationships become the same. I realize in life is that when you're in relationship, people who want to be in a relationship, they complain less. Because they appreciate you. Find people who appreciate you. And you find your life is going to go up 100. It's going to multiply. As what Christ says, it's going to be 60-fold or 100-fold better. Why? Because you have people around you who want to be in a relationship with you. So you don't have to always be calling them and be begging them and try to be around them. They're going to want to be around you and they appreciate you. And you're going to find your life better. Same thing with health. I've learned, if a person don't want to be healthy, you waste your time with them. At least for me, if I'm trying to communicate health to them and I'm like, I'm begging you so that you don't suffer pain. You're joking. Keep being in pain. And when in pain, I remember this doctor I used to work with, and it's a naturopathic doctor. And he would say, Lloyd, I prefer when people come in that they can walk through the door, but they're so sick that they hardly can walk through the door. Because then they'll do whatever I tell them. But when they're there and they're like, they're arguing back again with me and they don't want to do this and they don't want to do that, they're not sick enough. So you don't want them to come in a stretcher, but you don't want them to come in, they need to be in serious pain. They need to have motivation. And I've dealt with people that I said they're not sick enough. They don't feel messed up enough. They don't feel lost enough. But when you get in a situation where you're desperate time calls for desperate means. So like, somebody come to church and they have this attitude. They don't want to be there. Come back when life beat you a little bit more. And they come back again and they still have some attitude. No, go do another year again out there. And let them whack you a little bit more. And then probably you finally want some salvation. And that's just the reality of life. And when you deal with people, it's the same thing. So you want to be in a relationship with somebody, but they don't want it as much as you want it. There's going to be a lot of complaints. It's going to be like you're doing them a favor. So you got to ascertain that. And if that's not it, you move on. You find somebody who want to be with you. Same thing with fitness. Somebody says it's going to be painful. Well, no pain, no gain. Same thing with taking the herbs. Somebody says it's going to taste bitter. Well, what you want? You want to look good? You want to look fabulous, or you don't want to look fabulous? You want to look like you're falling apart, or you don't want to look like you're falling apart? Depends on what you want. You want to get up and you have energy to go through your day. You want to get up with a good mental motivation and mental drive. You want to get up and your hormones are pumping, or you want to get up and you want to feel like a slob. It depends what you want to feel like. But if you want to feel great, then the bitter taste of the herb is all right. It's all right. They put them in capsules and stuff like that. But beyond that, again, you want to get out of poverty. How much do you want to get out of poverty? Or you want to stay poor? There's many people who are poor and they're suffering, but they don't want it enough. There's some people that want it and they die for it and they can't get out. And there's somebody who have everything and going poor because they don't appreciate. It's the mental attitude that you take to life. You take an attitude to life that you want it, you will get it. There's people complaining and say they can't survive, while there's others saying, I wish I could get in your situation. You want to get out of debt or you want to stay in debt? It depends on how much you want it. So the more you want is the more you sort of think. You know, some people only want to work their way out of debt. Something you have to think your way out of debt. And a lot of times you have to think more than you work. Somebody says, how can you think more you work? You'll be not doing anything. Why are you working? Just keep thinking. You can do both things at the same time. You have two hemispheres of your brain and you have a subconscious. Just think and work. But if you want to do it, you'll make the effort to make it happen. Because what happened? The desire is something that drives us. We are run by desires. We just have to make sure the desire is controlled by self-control. But when self-control and the Spirit of God is upon you, the desire doesn't go away. You still have those desires. It's just the desires have limits. So you will desire something, but you don't steal it. You work for it. Hunger is the same type of thing. When you're hungry, even bitter things taste sweet. Why? Because that desire is driving you to get it. What do you want this week? What do you want this year for yourself? Ask yourself, do you want it enough? And if you don't want it enough, you might blow your New Year's resolution because you're not just hungry enough. But that desire is supposed to get us going every day. And, you know, when a person is younger, they want everything, so they drive. As they get older, they start having their dreams dash. They start having their hormones cut back, and they start to lose their drive. And next thing you know, they start looking sad. They have an upside down frown or upside down smile on their face. Why? Because they've had so much of their dreams dash. But you could get to a point in your life where you realize, man, I ain't going to take this. And I'm going to tell you what you're going to do. You're going to start listening to talks like this. You're going to start taking herbs and stuff like that to boost your hormone, to boost your adrenal glands, boost your testosterone, boost your estrogen, boost your thyroid glands, boost everything so you start balance out. You start to get going, get that drive back. You start to set some goals for yourself and start working at it. You start to bang away. You start to think, how am I going to get out of this? Because it's a slump. And it's a slump that comes with life. As you get older, you just start going to a slump. And I'm like, man, I ain't going to that slump. I'm fighting. I'm going to die fighting. And that's where you need to get to. And when you start getting that life, that in itself creates excitement in your life. Because you start feeling a new sense. Because it's not mental only. This is physical. You know, like what I just said there is physical. You start eating more beans. You start juicing. And you start feeling and seeing your skin and your body feeling more energy while you start to change your thinking. It is worth the fight of life because it's part of the excitement of life. While others are going down, you're fighting back. The fight back, literally, spiritually, physically, mentally, creates excitement in your life. That's where you want to be. At least that's where I'm trying to be and maintain. In Luke 13:24, says, strive to enter in at the straight gate. For many, I say unto you, will seek to enter in and shall not be able to, or not be able. So you want to be able to get into this mindset, because if you're not hungry, you start complaining. But if you're hungry, you're not going to be complaining. You're going to be busy trying to satisfy that hunger. But somebody say, Lord, I've lost that drive. I tell you, you probably need to start taking some herbs. Start taking herbs that feed your glands, feed your adrenal glands. Start getting some herbs that is natural steroids. That will start getting that drive where you start to want to break stuff. But don't break it, the Spirit of God. That you don't do like Samson, you have the Spirit of God on you. Get that drive back going. You know, stop listening to people that are depressed and start encouraging them to stop being depressed and get going and get that drive. It's important, more important now than when you're in the 20s, when your hormones were pumping and you were ready for any relationship. You're ready to go work. You're ready to take on life. And then the fight got beaten out of you. Get the fight back into you. In Matthew chapter 7, verse 6 through 8, Matthew 7, verse 6 through 8, it says, give not that which is holy unto dogs, neither cast your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn again and rend you. So, like what I'm saying here is the same thing. I could say, like, whatever I'm saying here, I'm hoping I'm not talking to swines. I'm talking to people who appreciate gems. Because what I'm saying here is practical. And it's not just practical because I'm saying it per se. Practical because I'm living it. This is real to me. Now, somebody might say, well, my doctor don't say that. Well, as I say, your doctor never going to sound like me or look like me at my age. So make it's real. This is not like some hypothetical talk for talk. When I talk here, I'm not talking some theory that you watch on TV. I'm talking real life experience here. You don't show, so in life you learn, don't show your pearls before swine. You don't put honeycomb before people who are full. If you put that same honeycomb before somebody that's hungry, they tear it up. They even swallow some of the beeswax because they're hungry. They think it's fiber. so you make sure in life you put the right thing before the right people. You know, there's certain people, as I say, I don't be wasting time with because they don't show no interest. And I tried out whatever and I realized I'm babying them and stuff like that. I'm like, man, move on. I don't have time for this. Right? Because that's throwing your pearl before swine and it'll take away your encouragement. Remember, most of us in life get beaten up in life because we're around too much swines, too much pigs. And they basically rend us and attack us. And I've been around that where people will attack you for something that they later on gonna need. Somebody will like poo-poo what you're saying, next thing you know they're dying of cancer. And I'm like, this isn't the same simple person that was poo-pooing what I was saying. And now, look, they're gonna need some antioxidant. Very important. You value good information. Notice in verse 7 it says here, ask and it shall be given you, seek and ye shall find, knock and it shall be opened unto you. For everyone that asketh receiveth, and that he that seeketh findeth, to him that knocketh it shall be open. So it's if you want it. See, this is God talking. So people say, but doesn't God have grace and forgiveness? Oh, yeah, but he said you have to knock. You have to want it. Because if I give it to you and you don't want it, then you're not going to appreciate it. But if you want it, I'm going to tell you what happened. And you're not going to ask him for it. When I give it to you, you will appreciate it. And that's what you're going to realize in your life. And I've learned over the time. It's not so much the problem of, it's not so much the problem of giving something to somebody. It's the problem is you're giving oftentimes something to somebody that don't want it. Same thing with your relationship, your body, your food, your clothing, your money. You could give money to poor and they don't deserve enough of it. Not because they don't need it, but because they don't want it. They weren't seeking the help. But when you give it to somebody who want it and appreciate it and need it and really hungering for it, that little, they won't complain. You give somebody $5 and they're really desperate, they're like, man, I appreciate you give me $5. Give another person who don't want it and they're not desperate for it, $100 and they curse you. And I've seen this happen. They're unappreciative. And somebody who wants it and really appreciative, you give them $5, they'll be like, man, they love you. So you got to know this is the principle. You got to take this in life. You have to have the attitude towards things that are good and towards God. And you better deal with people who have that type of attitude, because over the years I've proven you'll never break the Bible. People who are apathetic and they don't want it, you're like pulling teeth. They're like, they get upset, they complain, blah blah, they never appreciate. You could pour blessing upon them, time upon them, and they still say you didn't do anything for them. Somebody who want it, they'll be like, you give them little, they like love the little you give them, they appreciate the little. Notice in Revelation chapter 3 verse 21, Revelation 3 verse 21 says, to him that overcometh will I grant to sit with me on my throne, even as I also overcame and am set down with my Father in his throne. So this is a very powerful thing. You want it, you're going to get it. You're going to be able to get the reward, but you have to want it. You have to knock for it. You have to be hungry for it. Again, I read Proverbs 27 verse 7. The full soul loatheth an honeycomb, but to the hungry soul every bitter thing is sweet. Every bitter thing is sweet. So no complaints. Like, I'll take it. I have some food to eat. What am I worried about is bitter. One of the worst thing I've ever had is it's this thing called bitter melon. That thing is bitter. No, the thing is great for diabetes as a herbal remedy, but to eat it, no, many people eat it and they like it. I've tried it. That thing is difficult. So there's a certain, but if I have diabetes, I'm gonna have to eat it. And when I eat it and I get the result, I'm like, I'm not going to eat it. I'm going to take it and blend it and I'm going to drink it down. And I'm going to get that bitter melon down. And somebody said, but how can somebody stomach that? Because they have diabetes. If you have diabetes, bitter melon is a beautiful thing. You don't have to chew it. Just blend it and chug it down 2 gulps. Oh man, that even just the thought about it, it's upsetting the stomach because that thing is so bitter. But hey, You know, if you're hungry for something, you want the solution, offer some bitter melon. It's good. Now, remember, think about it, people eat it as regular food. And you're sick, you have even more motivation to eat it. So it depends how desperate you are. And depending on motivated you are. So let's pray. We thank you, Lord, again for the blessings of your word. I pray, the Lord, that your spirit may be upon us. We continue to guide us by thy grace. And may we truly, dear Lord, be hungry for salvation, hungry, dear Lord, for better in our lives. This is my prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks for being with me here on Revive Reform Radio. Looking forward to talking to you again live Monday morning, where we should do our live talk covering motivation. Until then, I pray that you may continue to walk with the King.